Hello and welcome to Post to Post, the channel where we discuss all things hockey and all teams. And this is a video you've probably wanted to make for a while. We're going to talk about Pittsburgh eliminating Columbus. Maybe I'll just throw it over to you. How excited are you?
Very. Yeah. To be honest, when the game ended, I was so riled up I didn't go to bed for quite a while. It was impossible because I was just so excited. I really believed deep down from the get-go that Pittsburgh was going to beat Columbus. I didn't predict they would do it in 5. I predicted 6. And in the back of my mind, I thought maybe even 7. But the overall depth, the overall experience was just too much for the Columbus Blue Jackets. And it really showed over those 5 games. But kudos to them. They just never stopped. They never gave it up. They're a very tenacious club. So my respect level for them went up a little bit. Yeah. However, based on the actions of certain key players in the series, it dropped back down.
Yeah, there was some questionable plays in this series. Calvert's cross-check, excuse me. I think you're right. I mean, Pittsburgh's depth is so apparent. Yeah. It's hard for teams to get past that. And Columbus struggled very visibly with Pittsburgh's depth. And Bobrovsky didn't play well. I don't want to say it, but he didn't.
No, I'm actually going to throw some blame on Bobrovsky. He is the new age Marc-Andre Fleury because Fleury has redeemed himself because to me, these 5 games, he was incredible. He had 50 shots in last night's game and he didn't falter at all. He gave up 2 goals, but my God, 50 shots. Bobrovsky did amazing this year in the regular season. However, his goals against average was basically a 4. In this series. It was terrible. It just wasn't good enough. And if you go back over previous years, his playoff numbers for his entire career are just not good.
Do you blame the Columbus blue line at all?
Yeah, I definitely do. Yeah. To me, Seth Jones is a stud, and Werenski as well. And it was an awful shame what happened with Werenski and him having the facial fracture and ultimately having to step out of the series. That was a big loss for the Columbus Blue Jackets right there. The kid's only 19, but to me, he plays like a veteran defenseman. He's that good. But again, they just weren't good enough. But at the same time, it's not so easy, even if you do have a good defensive core, to be able to defend against a team that can roll out 4 lines that can hurt you just as much as the next. I mean, there's certain times in the game where Phil Kessel's on your 3rd line.
Yeah.
I mean, what kind of depth do you have when a guy like Phil Kessel's on your 3rd line, Malkin's on your 2nd, and Crosby's on your 1st? Mm-hmm. It's not easy to defend against. It's really not. And then you want to try to have your matchups and so on. But when you're playing against an opponent with that much depth, matchups are almost out the window.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be afraid of every line. Every line can hurt you. And how do you deal with that?
Yeah, it's really not easy. And when the horn hit and the game was over, the first thing I said to my TV was justice. Because Columbus kind of resorted to a lot of dirty antics in that series. They kind of lost their cool, towards the end of games when they knew they were going to lose and so on. There was a questionable play last night where Hornquist got cross-checked from behind and went face first into the crossbar. Dubinsky is just one of those guys that kind of steps over the line all the time. You think back to the last time they met in the playoffs where Dubinsky cross-checked Crosby in the lower back, in the back of the neck, then the lower back, breaking the stick. I mean, what the hell is that type of stuff? And Columbus resorted to that again this year, that type of play. And, Pittsburgh hurt them where it hurts the most, and that's on the scoreboard.
Yeah, you're totally right. Columbus has those players that you hate to play against, but you'd love to have on your team. I think those players that play on the edge and sometimes, unfortunately, cross it. But it's kind of like the Brad Marchand. You hate the guy.
Yeah, Dubinsky's in my top 5 for most hated players in the NHL. Yeah. I despise that guy.
They have quite the rivalry, him and Crosby.
Oh, they hate each other 100%. I mean, they're both kind of, the old hockey standard of, well, we'll always be nice, in interviews and that type of thing. But I bet you if you asked them off ice, off camera, off the record, they'd say, yeah, I hate that guy.
So we have lots more to talk about here, but I just want to quickly ask you, How do you think Columbus will do next year based on this season?
Oh, I think they'll do really well. I mean, I look at their team on paper, and they have a very solid lineup, and the future's bright when they have a guy like Werenski coming in as a rookie and doing what he's doing. He's the future of their I almost said bloodline. The future of their blue line. Him and Seth Jones will really lead that blue line for years to come if they're able to, to keep them around long term and so on. But I see no reason why they can't.
All right,
because they have an amazing fan base in Columbus. It's incredible.
Yeah. I'm going to segue into something else now. So how do you feel about Tortorella? Do you think he comes back as the coach again?
I don't. And to be honest, I'm still in shock he has a job. To me, Tortorella's career should be done based on his antics involving the Calgary Flames that other year, and based on his antics, on and off camera. To me, the guy is 100% loose cannon, and he's not the best communicator at all. His anger is through the roof, and last night he didn't even join in the handshake line.
That was my segue.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
No,
I blew it.
Okay. No,
I blew it.
I was hoping that you'd go with it.
But yeah, he did shake hands with the Penguins coaching staff, but as soon as he did that, he went to the dressing room and did not join his team in the handshake line. What the hell is that?
I was really, really, really shocked by that because, you look at all of the hardcore rivalries that have gone on in the playoffs, teams that absolutely despise each other and hate each other with all their guts. But at the end of the day, those coaches shake hands with the other team.
And that's what makes hockey so great.
That's one of the best things about hockey is the level of respect. Yes. And the fact that he didn't do that.
Well, to me, it speaks volumes. When you look at guys taking cheap shots against certain Penguins players, and then you have their head coach that doesn't even join in the handshake line. Well, now I see where they get it from. Yeah. When you got a guy like that running the bench.
Tortorella has had to apologize so many times in his coaching career. When is the last time? When is enough enough?
Yep, get rid of him. If I were the GM in Columbus, I would not have him back next year. And I would make sure he's replaced with a guy that, to me, can really coach a team with Columbus's strengths. And to me, one of their main strengths is to play a very similar style to the Pittsburgh Penguins, focusing more on offense than defense. At times, I almost think the Penguins have the mentality of, as long as we outscore the opponent, we're good. They kind of almost do that at times. But to me, they should really resort to a more speed game because they really tried to play a more defensive style at a lot of points in this series. And man, it really hurt them due to the Penguins' depth. I really felt that at times they should have been pushing a lot more than they actually were. Yeah,
definitely. And so you think Tortorella should be toast? You think he should be gone?
I'm not a fan of Tortorella whatsoever. And it actually kind of burns me a bit that the guy has a Stanley Cup.
So hypothetically, if Chicago decides to fire Quenneville, do you think he would be a good fit in Columbus?
God, hypothetically, he wouldn't be a good fit anywhere. Tortorella, he would not be a good fit anywhere.
Quenneville.
Oh, Quenneville. Oh, yeah, Quenneville, hands down. Yes, that would be an amazing signing because to me, next to Babcock, Quenneville is the best coach in the NHL. There's a real argument there who's better, and I really don't know. They're both that amazing.
Yeah, and I think Quenneville's style plays well with the core that Columbus has.
Yeah, it definitely
would do really well.
And he's, a very experienced coach. Hey, 3 cups, right, with Chicago. But I don't know. I would not want Tortorella back, especially after the negative attention he's bringing to their franchise by not joining that handshake line. You could look at it as, he just didn't join the handshake line. It's not like he punched a guy in the face. It doesn't matter. That's an honored tradition in hockey. Whether you win, whether you lose, you join that handshake line, you show respect. That's what makes the NHL and the game of hockey so beautiful to watch.
Yeah, I didn't have much respect for Tortorella going into his Columbus signing last year.
Yeah, I still can't believe they signed him. I
gained a lot of respect back for him this year when he was picked to go to the All-Star game as a coach, but decided not to go because he had a family pet that died.
Right.
And that was impressive to me. Yep. That showed that I had a lot of respect for him doing that. But now I've lost all respect for him again.
Well, I will also say this about Columbus. I will say that, in my opinion, much like I said with Nashville, they've overachieved. If it wasn't for that 16-game win streak, they wouldn't have even made the playoffs because they were barely even a 500 team after that 16-game win streak. It was that win streak that got them into the playoffs. And ultimately, they went out in the first round to the Pittsburgh Penguins.
So what's your favorite part about the Columbus game? Like, who are a few players that you really love on the team? I know you mentioned Seth Jones.
Yeah, Jones and Werenski. To me, I'm more of a fan of the blue line than the guys that they have up front. That's a really good core to build your blue line around, because to me, in a couple of years, these two guys will be in discussion for Norris trophies. They are that good. And to me, Bobrovsky is one of the best goalies in the world. He really is, but he's kind of the new age Marc-Andre Fleury, as I mentioned earlier, and he really needs to work on these playoff demons, because at times, wow, he was terrible in this series.
So let's actually switch over to Marc-Andre Fleury. So Murray is injured. Mm-hmm. You know more than me. Could he come back for the round 2?
It's very possible. They're being so tight-lipped about Matt Murray. No one really knows the extent of the injury. However, all they've said is he's a no-go for round 1.
Now, would you want him to come back?
No. They need to keep playing Fleury until he loses. It would be stupid if Murray is 100% healthy to put him in and take Fleury out when Fleury's in tip-top game shape. His timing is impeccable right now.
His confidence is through the roof.
Yeah, his confidence is through the roof. They're chanting his name every home game. Why would you jinx that or jeopardize that by bringing Matt Murray in, who hasn't played a game now in quite some time due to this recent injury? It'd be silly. You got to ride Fleury now until he loses.
If you removed Fleury in game 1 of round 2, mm-hmm. Murray came in, played terrible. You put Fleury back in, Fleury would not be the same goalie he was in round 1.
No, he definitely wouldn't, and it would be 100% the wrong move. And I know that they're not dumb enough to do something like that. There's no way. And I'd probably put my fist through the TV if they did something like that.
Yeah.
But no, I am so impressed with Marc-Andre Fleury. Going into the playoffs, when I heard about the Murray injury in the warm-up, I thought, oh my God, this is not going to be good, because my confidence in Fleury was almost zero based off of his past playoff performances. Then he comes in, and to me, man, he stole the show in these 5 games. Yeah, I mean, they scored goals on him, but man, he's been incredible. I mean, last night he had 50 shots.
Yeah.
And, he basically almost got them all.
Yeah, I remember that when the first game in the warm-up, when Murray got injured, you messaged me on Facebook, and you're like, man, shit.
Yeah.
Can't believe it.
I was not in a good place at that time.
So one of the last questions I want to ask you is, this was Hainsey's first playoff appearance in his career. How do you think he did?
I'd give him a 3 on 5 stars. The jitters got to him quite a bit in the earlier games. He had some terrible, terrible turnovers where I was just shaking my head. Hainsey, how could you do that? But he's totally redeemed himself, in my opinion, over the last 2 games. He played really well, and he got his first career playoff goal.
Yeah, he did.
So that was a big highlight for him. And I mean, he's been in the league, 15 years probably? And to only have his first taste of playoff action now, that's incredible. But again, that's them going out, solidifying that blue line with that Letang injury with a guy like Hainsey.
How do you think Schultz did?
I think Schultz is a stud.
A stud? Uh-oh.
He's a stud. And he is Chris Letang 2.0. They have a lot of the same traits as an offensive defenseman. To me, Schultz can move the puck almost as good as Chris Letang, and he really commands that blue line when they're on the power play. And to me, Schultz right now would be irreplaceable if something ever did happen. Knocking on wood here, I don't want to jinx it. It would hurt them so much if Schultz were to sustain an injury.
Yeah, you said that he's Letang 2.0. Yeah. Let's hope he's Letang 2.0 minus the injuries.
Minus the injuries, yes. Because poor Letang, they actually panned the camera to him a few times up in the press box area, and he had the neck brace on watching the game. Man, I bet you that guy is just so sad that he can't play. But hey, he's still there supporting the guys, right? And he's down there when they come off the ice. Yeah. So, I mean, just to have his presence there is a big thing. It's kind of like Dupuis the other year when he had to retire early in his career, in my opinion, because he was only 35, 36 when he had to retire due to the blood clots. He was still there every game, greeting the guys as they came off the ice. A morale boost like that. And you kind of use it as an incentive, like, okay, let's do this for Chris Letang,
So I'll close this off by asking you, as a Penguins fan and someone who watches the Penguins every single game. You've never missed a Penguins game this year. Who do you want the Penguins to play in the next round, Toronto or Washington?
To be honest, I don't think it really matters.
Oh.
I'm not trying to be cocky. I'm really not. Because if we go back over previous years, what has Pittsburgh done every time that they ran into the Washington Capitals? Actually, correct that. What has everybody done who has run into the Washington Capitals in the second round? They eliminated them. Washington's going nowhere, people. You need to realize this. They're not. So if it's Toronto, I would be hands down all for it, because I really enjoy watching Toronto and the core of young guys that they have. And with the speed game they put on the ice and the speed game Pittsburgh puts on the ice, I think that might be the best series of the playoffs if they did meet in the next round.
I think Ovechkin's going to come in and light Pittsburgh up and sweep them. Just kidding. Just kidding.
Not gonna happen.
No.
Unless they leave him alone in his office, because it's the only thing he's good for.
Yeah, no, I don't think even Washington has a chance against Pittsburgh, unfortunately.
They are very, very deep. They're very, very experienced. You know, you got guys on there that have been there for both cups in 2009 and last year. They know what it takes. They know how to get it done. There's many times in the series with Columbus. Columbus was up 2 goals. What did Pittsburgh do? They stormed back and took that game over.
I feel the only team that could take out Pittsburgh, and this is going to sound a little magical, but it's an underdog team, because you get that mindset that this team can do anything. Like Toronto's kind of in that zone right now.
Yeah.
And Montreal did it in 2010. They, never supposed to take out Washington, never supposed to take out Pittsburgh. They were the underdog. Do you think Toronto could magically get by Pittsburgh?
No, I don't. I think it would really catch up to Toronto in the second round if they ran into Pittsburgh. See, going into the first round, Toronto, there's absolutely no pressure on them whatsoever, right? All the pressure in the world was on the Washington Capitals in that first round. So going into the next round, though, if Toronto does beat Washington, they're going up against the Stanley Cup champions. That's totally different. Now, all of a sudden, these young guys are almost in awe, because many of them speak so highly of how they watched Crosby as they were basically growing up.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these guys aren't even 20 yet, right? And Crosby's been in the league for 10 years. So some of these guys were 8 years old when Crosby was drafted. I mean, that's just a scary thought. He's been around that long. So they might be in awe of the Pittsburgh Penguins a little bit, and I think they're going to be caught flat-footed.
So just to close this, your bracket challenge, you got correct in this series.
Yep.
Pittsburgh won. I got it wrong. I thought that Columbus was going to win in 7. Wasn't even close, but at least they didn't get swept. But yeah, so that wraps it up. Did you guys enjoy this series? I did. I honestly didn't watch a lot of the series. I was too busy watching the other games. Sorry, but clearly you've watched every second of this series.
And then some.
And then some. Yeah. So thank you guys very much for watching this video. We hope you liked it. If you did, hit the like button. If you're new to this channel and this is your first video, we hope you hit the subscribe button, because we're making hockey videos basically every day. And otherwise, we'll see you in the next video. Adios. Hello and welcome to Post to Post, the channel where we discuss... I forgot the intro. Oh. Post to Post.
Teleprompter.